Hi guys, it's Jessica Dubzinski, and it is time for the Close to My Heart Twisted Sisters group once again. Now in this group, what we like to do is take something from the new catalog from Close to My Heart and show you a twisted or a different way that you can use it. So this is the stamp set and thin cut that I am going to be using. It's called S'more Adventures, and you can see it's really a camping themed stamp set, but I am going to make a bunch of different Christmas cards, and I'm going to show you 5 different ways that you can add a snowy background to your Christmas card. So I've already prepped all the pieces, but I wanted to show you here what I have done to the rest of them. I've just edge distressed my piece of paper with some almond ink, and I picked a bunch of patterns from my stash that had that toffee or brown craft color to them. And then I have cut a 4-inch square out of Harbor cardstock, and then I have taken a sanding block and sanded across the edge to reveal that white core. And so I've prepped all those pieces so that they look like that. And then I have used that coordinating thin cut to cut out a bunch of these trees from the stamp set. And I used New England Ivy cardstock. And you can see here all the different thin cuts dies that come with this set, and then you can just stamp right over top of them. So I'm going to stamp these last 2 trees, and I'm also going to use that New England Ivy ink color. So that way it's just the same color ink on the cardstock. And I've got one tree on the darker shade of the color, and then I've got the other tree on the lighter shade of the color. So that's one of the fun things about Close to My Heart's cardstock, is you've got 2 different shades of the same color in one. Okay, so now that I've stamped those, these are my finished trees. I wanted to show you how I made those for the other ones. You can see the difference here. I'm going to add just a little bit of extra detail to them with some of my tri-blend markers. So I'm using dull green and earth brown. Now for the earth brown, I am taking the lightest end of the marker and I'm coloring in the tree trunks on both of them for both the light and the dark. And then I'm going to switch over to the dull green marker, and for my darker tree, I'm going to use that middle shade of the color. And then really all I am doing is just taking the marker and going right over the stamped image. So any line, any of the outlines, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the lightest end of the marker on my lighter tree. And then you can see it looks like this. But I want them to have a little snow because we are focused on adding some snowy backgrounds on these Christmas cards. So I'm using the white gel pen and just adding a little, I'm again following the stamped image, little squiggly line across all 3 layers of the tree. And then once I've got that done, all of my parts and pieces are ready to go, and the assembly is pretty quick. Okay, so what I wanted to show you for this was how to, like I said, make a snowy background for your Christmas card. So we're going to do this in 5 different ways. The first way is to take a white gel pen and make your own snowflakes. So easy enough, I just draw some little dots here, and kind of like random stamping, I am making them in triangular formations and just kind of trying to keep them as random as possible, even though it's not really that random. And then for this one, I'm also going to grab this cute little star stamp that's on this set, and I'm going to stamp it in Harbor ink, which is the color of that cardstock. So it's kind of subtle, but it's just a fun another way to add a little something to my nighttime snowy background for this particular card. And again, kind of random stamping, adding them around, not too many of them, just a few for a little added detail. Okay, and then our first snowy background is done. So let's look at the second way that we can do this right here. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use, this is a new stamp set called Background Elements. It'll be available in August. And I'm going to grab, there is this one background piece right here that's kind of random looking. And we're gonna put that on the black, and we're gonna use some white pigment ink. I think this is actually my favorite of the 5 ways of adding the snowy background. I really like the way that this one looks. So I will just cover this 4-inch piece of Harbor cardstock with this stamp, and I'm twisting and turning it so that way I'm getting, you know, a different impression everywhere. And I'm actually not even pushing down that hard. I'm just giving it a really light tap, just to kind of mimic, you know, the snowflakes in a night sky, how some of them are bigger and thicker, and then some of them kind of seem farther away and faded. I really like the look of this. So I'll set that one to the side to dry because pigment ink does take a little bit longer to dry. And so now we are ready for the third way. While I still have that stamp mounted on my block, the third way I'm going to do is to use some white embossing powder. So I will grab my anti-static pouch, which I like to use to prepare my paper before I do any kind of heat embossing. It just removes the static and prevents the embossing powder from going anywhere you don't want it to go. And then same stamp set, same stamping, only this time I am using my Versamark ink pad. This one is a little bit harder to see when you stamp it down, but in person I could see. I know on the video you can't really tell that those are on there. But then I'm going to liberally cover it in that white embossing powder and tap off the excess. And then off camera I will heat set that with my gun. And there you can see that one's a lot of fun too. Same look. Let's compare those two. The one has the white pigment ink. It's a little bit more faded, and then the white heat embossing is just much sharper. I think I actually like the faded version better. All right, and then the fourth way to make a snowy background is to use some white gloss spray and then just tap the lid or the little stopper thing and get some splatters. So very fast, very easy. Again, just kind of creating some random snowflakes. And again, I'll set this one to the side to dry. And we are ready for the fifth way of adding a snowy background. So for this one, what I'm going to do, I pulled two different embossing folders. This snowflake one, which is from Close to My Heart and is retired, and then this Cuttlebug one that's just a bunch of polka dots. And I've got two more pieces of paper, so I'll run both of those through. And then you can see that fun embossing on there. Now the cool thing about Close to My Heart's cardstock is that it does have a white core. So kind of like how we did the edges of this square, I'm going to run my sanding block over it, and then that just pulls out that embossed image. So here you can see all of our different snowy backgrounds. We actually have 6, although these two were the same technique. And now we can begin making our Christmas cards with this camping stamp set. Now I've gone through and just pulled a bunch of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 pieces of paper. That one's a craft cardstock with a wood embossing folder. This is actually, some of them are Christmas papers. That one is an old like floral collection, just anything that had that brown craft color to it. And then also in White Daisy cardstock, I've used my Fancy Borders thin cuts to create these little snow banks or snow hills. And I use that one that's kind of the straightest of them all. And then I will put those across the bottom. I won't show you every single card because really it's the same process for each of them. It was just the different kinds of snowy backgrounds. But I liked this because I could see being able to mass produce this card very easily, sitting in front of the TV and just kind of cranking out a bunch of trees and then a bunch of backgrounds. And I don't know about you guys, but when it gets to making Christmas cards, some of them I like to be, fancy and detailed, and some of them I like to be easily replicated. And I think that this falls into that category of being able to make a bunch easily. All right, I'm putting both a dark tree and a light tree on, staggering them. One is flat to the paper and the other one is up on some thin 3D foam tape. And then I've gone into my massive Christmas stamp stash and just found a little Merry Christmas stamp from a retired stamp set. And I stamped that in Harbor ink. And then I'm using some brown and white twine that I have in my stash to wrap twice around the bottom of that square. And then I'm going to tie a little bow off to the side. And that is the first card. And the other cards are all basically the same kind of variation as this one. So there you can see is the first one done. I like that little tree. I can't wait to make some scrapbook pages with this camping set, but I really like that tree for Christmas cards. Okay, this is another stamp set that I love called Peace and Love, and I'm just grabbing the sentiment on it that says Peace on Earth. I feel like that is appropriate for just this quiet, snowy, Christmas tree image that we have going on the card front. So I alternate between Merry Christmas and Peace on Earth. Same thing, stamping it at the bottom of my snow hill using some Harbor ink. Now, in addition to changing up my sentiment between Peace on Earth and Merry Christmas, I do change up my card design just a little bit by twisting my square so that it is going in the other direction on the card. So I just alternated back and forth, and like you said, easily replicated, but still enough of a change that I think that if I sat down and made a bunch of these, it wouldn't get too tedious or boring. This time I'm going to use some red and white twine in my stash and tie that around. Okay, I did want to show you that this stamp set does actually have a thin cut for a little mountain, which is really cute. And I thought that that could also be incorporated into this card. So I did make one card with a mountain, and I'm still going to use my little snowbank piece to go in front of that, but this way you could also have a snowy mountain. We don't really have mountains here where I am, but you know, some people might, and so that's another option. I thought that that was cute. So we'll do that one again, just kind of, some of them go in one direction, some go in the other direction. Some I use brown thread, some I use red thread. But at the end, I actually had quite a few Christmas cards done, so that was exciting. All right, here we go. They're all set. You can see here, that's the one, let's see. It's too fast for me to say. I think I have it here in the still shots, which one is which. So you'll have to tell me down below which kind of snowy background is your favorite, and if you think that you could use that camping stamp set to make some Christmas cards. I think so. All right, I thought that I could also maybe try adding a little bit of color by some liquid pearls in this red here. So I put some ornaments on this card, but I mean, it looks okay. Honestly, I think I kind of like the muted colors in the other one, so I didn't really add any ornaments to the other ones. But here you can see those two, and then we've got the gloss spray splatters, and then one of the sanded cards, another one of the embossed and sanded, and then also the white gel pen. So yeah, which one's your favorite? All right, be sure to check out the other Twisted Sisters who are twisting things from that new catalog as well. I will leave some links down below. All right, guys, happy crafting. Bye.